Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 18 minutes after 8 o'clock, and we are now joined by a senior researcher at the Institute for Global Dialogue, and that, of course, is you, Ashraf Patel. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program. And are you also talking with me this morning with square eyes because you couldn't take your eyes off the coverage of the elections, or were you, in fact, at one of the centers seeing what's going on?
Salam, Auntie Julie. Hope you're well on this cold morning. And yes, indeed, it has been a milestone election. And, I sort of focus more on the one major theme being what I call, or a lot of the analysts are calling, the kind of dismantling of the non-racial social democratic compact. I think this is the big narrative of election 2024, and then we can unpack these themes.
Please unpack that for us further because I think we kind of, or perhaps a lot of people, depending how leftist or rightist you are in your political thinking, were focused on the three big parties, and that was ANC, DA, and of course the surprising newcomer or not so newcomer, but of course MK, and just how well they did, and of course having overtaken the EFF in KZN, in fact, having overtaken all the parties in KZN. And what is it going to mean? Their win for not only the national elections, but when we look at KZN, what that scenario is going to look like. But you are going to first unpack the first comment you made this morning right here on Salam Media.
Yes, definitely, Julie. Look, at the inaugural 94 election, the first democratic election, the ANC was basically at the center of government and society. I think its broad, non-racial, non-sexist, inclusive policies and the leadership at the time managed to propel the ANC as a broad-based, inclusive movement. But 30 years later, and I think especially this election comes against the backdrop of a deepening global social crisis, economic crisis, and the rise of what is called identity politics, which is a global phenomenon, and that has weaved its way into our own body politic. So definitely, the big analysis or observation is the kind of erosion of non-racialism in this election, and let us unpack. So, of course, MK being the big disruptor and news of the election, what it actually is essentially is the kind of regional KZN, if you like, the Zulu vote that has kind of broken away from the ANC. So that 15% is essentially mainly ANC votes, partial EFF votes, but it's essentially now a kind of ethnic mobilized party that has got 15%. If you look at the PA, the Patriotic Alliance, so that is essentially the grievances of the colored community that has largely voted as a bloc. And then even if you look at the DA, they are kind of basically proclaiming that they're the only party that has grown. But if you analyze and break it down, the 3% growth in the DA is actually a net transfer from the Freedom Front Plus. So that's 3% down for the Freedom Front Plus and 3% up for the DA. So the DA in net terms is stagnated. And the only reason they got the FF Plus votes was the Steenhuisen factor. And so what the analysis is that South Africans are voting as racial blocs. And that is the kind of basic theme, the main theme of elections 2024, the erosion of the non-racial social compact and at a social level, and also the erosion of social democratic compact that has been the rock bed of the ANC for 30 years. That has eroded now. And so we're definitely in what is called uncharted waters, both at an economic level, a political level, and a social level. So very interesting times and also quite concerning times.
Okay, so we spoke about the disruptor being the MK party and also the PA with Gayton McKenzie having made lots of noise pre the elections, and he must, the PA and Gayton himself, must be preening at the idea that they've done so very well. On the other hand, you've also got the National Coloured Congress, who are requesting for a full investigation into the recent election proceedings. They are talking about actual bias by IEC agents. They're talking about discrepancies in vote counts and irregularities in election procedures, etc., etc., etc. I think they were probably hoping for the coloured vote. And with PA and Gayton McKenzie, who is a very, very colourful character, a larger than life character, he seemed to have captured the coloured vote from the National Coloured Congress. Do you see it in the same way?
Yes, Julie, a lot of the social analysts, kind of political commentators in academia have basically termed this, and this is a global phenomenon. If you look at India, Mexico, most parts of Europe, you're having the rise of the populist, small parties, regional parties, but they take one or two major themes, such as immigration or exclusion of certain communities, and they run with that in the popular domain, very savvy in social media. So yes, Gayton McKenzie, MK to some extent, fit those narratives. And so what one political analyst called them, the mini Trumpians. So borrowing from the Trump narrative of very bombastic, singular messaging, finding scapegoats. So this is all part of what is called identity populist politics, and it has been the big theme of this year's elections. And I think the PA factor, to some extent, the PA factor has basically fit within those kind of frameworks. And it has disrupted politics because remember, the social democratic kind of capitalist model which the ANC has followed. In fact, I think the big reason why the ANC has done so bad is that it has been way too free market, capitalist and neoliberal. And when you implement those policies that they had, especially in the last 5 years, the ANC has basically eroded its own capacity or the capacity of the state to deliver services. So it has basically shot itself in the foot. On the one hand, it wanted to, its core social base is the masses, is the poor socio-economic communities, but it has embarked on policies, especially privatization and deregulation. And these policies that have, by default or by contradiction, weakened its own capacity to deliver to its own social base. So it actually must take, in fact, the ANC and the alliance partners must take the bulk of the blame for their very weak showing in 2024 election. They cannot just easily blame it on this faction or this formation. They, as the ANC alliance, have been in power for 30 years, and they need to do critical self-reflection on why they went wrong on core economic and social policies.
Ashraf, the other issue regarding the ANC that needs to be mentioned as well and is important regarding their poor results. Look, it was predicted, and it was predicted on the proviso that they didn't deliver. Uh, they didn't deliver over the past many years regarding services, basic services to the poorest of the poor and to the country as a whole, which stagnated the economy because small businesses were shutting down due to lack of service, electricity and water shedding. created major issues on, the country and the economy as a whole. That's the one issue, and of course, the corruption. So the writing was on the wall. I mean, it's almost as if the ANC were felt that they were totally a law unto themselves, totally unaccountable to the people, and they went ahead with their, I suppose, cadre deployment and all of the corruption that was happening over the past many years, almost
mm,
crippling the country. That's the one issue. The other issue as well is the deep faction within the ANC itself. And of course, now that coalition talks are going to go ahead, I kind of wonder what's going to happen regarding this divide between within the ANC. Is it going to perhaps bring them together and make them a stronger force, or is this now, the end of, the two parties that are so divided in their philosophy, in their thinking? They're going to go their separate ways. A part of that faction obviously
mm.
resulted in the MK party, didn't it?
Yes, yes. Look, I think a lot of the social analysts have said in the past few years, but remember, we've had the COVID pandemic, and that was global. But different nations had a different approach to the pandemic, and I think where the ANC broadly went wrong was the hard lockdown. So the hard lockdown in a context where communities are spatially isolated, where there's large unemployment, and where the grant system was not so effective, that became a very, very sore point, and it generated a lot of discontent. So when they review their term in office critically, and when political scientists write about this in the years to come, I think the COVID hard lockdown would be one area that they can say that is where we really went wrong. And then you go further down, you look at the massive electricity crisis, the load shedding crisis of the last 18 months that really destroyed or eroded economic capacity, small businesses, pushed up inflation, etc. Those two factors were a massive driving force at an economic level. And the irony being the ANC managed to get this right, but only in the last 6 months. So I would say for the last 5 years of Ramaphosa's term, he's pursued very kind of free market, privatized model reforms that have by default affected his social base the most, the ANC social base, i.e. the poor and the working class.
Mm.
But they've only started getting the results of the reforms right in the last 6 months. It's seen with the load shedding that is now sort of diminished. And whatever the reasons, or there seems to be, Eskom's capacity seems to be coming on stream. They seem to be getting some of those systems in order, etc., etc. But it's a case, as usual, of starting to deliver too little, too late. And I think
Yeah.
that is another tragedy that they need to look at.
I'm wondering if that wasn't an electioneering ploy. What happens now? Are we still going to go ahead? Is load shedding and water shedding going to be permanent fixture in our lives? Was, as you've indicated, the past few months, things seem to have improved. Was that just not perhaps an electioneering ploy? We look at that, and another important issue that I do want to cover with you this morning after the ad break. And the second issue that I want you to respond to is the Muslim vote.
Mm.
Were we strong enough as a community? Did we come out? Did we make a difference? And did we, in fact, cast our votes for the right party? And what is your perception of the right party? Stay with us. This is News and Views on Salam Media with me, Julie Ali, and our
Okay.
first guest, of course, is Ashraf Patel, Senior Researcher at the Institute for Global Dialogue.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
You South African, of course. You anxious about the future. We've got you covered. Build on your wealth portfolio with Randry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange. Visit us at 151 Stephen Dlamini Road, Musgrave, Durban, or call us on 031 202 4700 for more information. Randry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange, your passport to gold investment.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Yasin Badat Financial Advisory. Are your financial goals feeling out of reach? Yasin Badat Financial Advisory is here to turn your aspirations into achievements. Our dedicated team, armed with a history of success, is ready to guide you through the complex nature of financial and investment planning. Whether you're a seasoned investor or new to the game, our personalized solutions cater to your unique goals and risk appetite. Trust in our commitment to transparency, integrity, and excellence. Ready to unlock a world of financial freedom? Partner with us today. Call Yasin Badat Financial Advisory at +27 33346 2071 or visit www.yasinbadat.com. Yasin Badat Financial Advisory, guiding you to financial success.
No one wants to let go of that feeling of closeness to Allah that we feel by the end of Ramadan. Ramadan is over, but that closeness doesn't have to be. The deeds most loved by Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. So don't let go of that feeling. Give a small amount regularly and hold on to Allah's love. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. We're wrapping up with senior researcher at the Institute for Global Dialogue, and that, of course, is you, Ashraf Patel. 2 questions posed to you before the ad break, and I'll hand over to you to wrap up.
Yes, Julie, just a quick one on the energy load shedding item. Look, the assessment so far is that it's a combination of factors, not just elections. The energy action plan that has been installed a year ago has starting to bear fruits. So the Medupi and Kulile stations are up and running, and the new board, the new chairperson of the board, new executives are beginning to get the systems in place to deliver and mitigate load shedding. So it may be a one-part electioneering, but I think the bulk of it is that the systems and the energy action plan seems to be working. Of course, water systems or delivery is a different story because water is a kind of metropolitan function, and that depends on the different water utilities and how they're getting the investment and infrastructure right, and the kind of relationships with the municipalities. So it's a very complex governance, service delivery system happening in water. But nonetheless, citizens and voters must always be kind of make their municipalities and governments account for core service delivery. So that would be my take: energy and water crisis, and some of the new emerging green shoots that are taking place. Of course, the second question, lots of the analysts or political commentators are saying, okay, we know the minority vote in South Africa. Look, the big theme, as I mentioned, is the erosion of non-racialism and kind of race ethnic blocks now that have emerged, which is quite the sad story of South Africa. So the Mandela dream, if you like, has eroding or is rapidly eroding. And the same is happening in the minorities. So let's say the minority of minority vote, if you like, the Muslim, Indian, Malay community. That's an interesting question. Obviously, one needs to look at the data as it comes, particularly from Western Cape, urban centers in Gauteng and KZN. But from what one can say initially, off the cuff, the kind of Indian vote, Muslim vote, Malay vote is always a very fickle vote. One, voters, a small, very small voting block, number one. Number two, they naturally vote on issues of the day, or they go with the wind, if you like. And I think that seems to be the observation of the Muslim, Indian, Malay community. They're not anchored in any mainstream political party. It's very much driven by issues of the day at that electoral cycle, at that point in time. That's what my initial observations are. Obviously, we have to look at the data, but we all know that over the years there's been a shift generally from the ANC to the DA by all the minority communities, whether it's Indian community, Malay community, etc. But obviously the Palestine factor, we need to incorporate that. I'm not sure if we were to see the performance of Al Jamaa, whether that has it improved on 2019. There seems to be a slight decline. There's a number of factors. As I said, it's still too early to tell, but it's a very small community, 2%, but it plays a big role, especially in the public domain, in NGOs, in charity work, and I think obviously that will always continue. The community plays a positive role in terms of social contributions at all levels, and I think perhaps the best bet is for the community to continue playing the positive role in community development, in charity, in public participation at all levels. It is part and parcel of the country, but we need to wait for the data and look at the data and make analysis more carefully there, yes.
All right, Ashraf, that's where we have to leave it. Thank you indeed for your insights this morning. Look forward to many more conversations with you in the future. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam.
8:41 News and Views moving along. Our next guest is Councillor Imran Musa for Lenasia Ward 9. We understand he has scooped a seat in Parliament. So we're going to hear from him in a minute or two.